Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited for today's podcast. We have a very special guest, Carrell. I watched him on a podcast last week and actually talked about his podcast and the information that he was bringing forth to the American people. There's so much stuff. Let me just share. There's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we average Americans know nothing about. And this is really earth-shattering information, and we really need to take heed to what JJ has to say. So without further ado, JJ, I am so appreciative of you agreeing to be on my podcast because I was stunned when I watched you on Redacted News and the whole interview you had done there. So welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I do agree with you that this is the most important topic. This is the greatest threat to our republic. I don't think America has yet awakened to the severity of this. And just so your audience is very clear, I'm very upfront when I come and speak. I absolutely believe, as I've written in my book, Invaded, that this is the intentional destruction of the American immigration system. And they're using illegal immigration, not legal, illegal immigration to destroy our nation. I absolutely 100% believe that. And I also want to say, and I know it's been a while that your son has passed away or was murdered in the way I view it. And I take that very personally because throughout my career, I have seen not just Americans, but my brothers and sisters in law enforcement that have died at the hands of illegal aliens. And that was my job and responsibility to arrest them and remove them from our nation. And we tried, man, we tried with everything in our power, but to understand the frustrations of being a Border Patrol agent is to understand throughout your career, you go through these ebbs and flows, but the constant was our government didn't care. And they used all of us and continue to use all of us as pawns to enrich themselves with power and wealth. And there's no disputing that. Anyone on the left cannot argue that this has happened. And it is just accelerated to a point now that is, even when I retired as a Border Patrol agent, and my last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year, I could have never envisioned this level of treachery and treason. Never.
It was so disgusting and disappointing to the Angel Family organization and all of the mothers and fathers who had been speaking out, becoming vocal, becoming brave to get out on the national stage and talk about this because, Trump was the first president who gave anybody the opportunity to talk about this. When my son was killed, Obama was in office, and I wrote him several letters. And one time when I was there speaking with members of Congress and we were having lunch, we were a block away from the White House, and the Obamas were hosting illegal teachers and illegal college students to talk to them about, what our country could do to further their education and their lives and their careers. And so it was very disappointing, but in the same time, enlightening and encouraging when Trump came into office. And I think, did you guys feel like you were supported and listened and heard when Trump was in office, more so than you were when Biden or Obama was?
President Trump was the greatest border president in the history of America. Undisputed. I worked under Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, and now this demented old fool. Right. For the first time in my career, ma'am, we were winning. People can't envision 12 million illegal aliens crossing the border and being released in 39 months under Joe Biden or when his term ends in 4 years. Go back to January 19th, 2021, before he was inaugurated to be president. The border was secure. We were almost within 9 months of having it completely shut down and managed to a zero. Let me just give you an idea of what that looked like. Because I was a deputy patrol agent in charge, so I rose up to senior leadership in San Diego sector. And I was a line agent and a supervisor and task force supervisor So I was never an administrative guy. I was always a field guy. Under President Trump, at the end of his term, we were arresting 500 to 600 people a day. A day. That's that's 2,000 miles on the southern border, 5,400 miles on the northern border. We were averaging about one on the southern border, one illegal alien arrested every 24 hours on like 3 to 4 miles. It was nothing. It was like a little faucet drip. The day Joe Biden took office, we went 5,000. And it never stopped until we're today, where we're averaging 7 to 15,000. Some days in December of last year, we were over 20,000 a day being arrested and released. Now you go back to Obama. It's very important that we are able to talk about. I can't stand any of these politicians. This is a Republican and Democrat issue. It's a uniparty.
Yep.
But everything started to accelerate under under Obama. And their tool, their lieutenant that they use is Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary. Everyone believes Mayorkas just fell out of the sky and landed in this position. He looks very meek. He looks very weak, and he's not. He's an extremely intelligent man. Rose up to the U.S. attorney ranks at the youngest man ever. He was the director of USCIS, one of the most major components of DHS and immigration under Obama. And then under Obama, he became the deputy secretary. And now he is the secretary of DHS. And you go back and you look at DACA, prosecutorial discretion, where under Obama, we didn't deport anyone that was in the interior of America. And Mayorkas created and facilitated those programs. He is the creator and facilitator of the CBP-1 Act, the creation and bastardization of parole. He has destroyed the asylum. He's created catch and release. He made contracts with foreign countries and NGOs to straight release everyone. He is the tip of the spear, but it goes all the way back to Obama. Everything that we're witnessing under Biden, look, if we're all very honest, intellectually honest, Joe Biden has no idea what planet he's on. So when I say Biden, I'm talking about Obama's cabinet that is now entrenched in Biden's cabinet. All of those ideals and goals that they had in 2008, their manifestation is now under Joe Biden. This is I want your audience to understand. I'm sure they do, because I'm sure to a point I'm preaching to the choir. But I need you to understand the depth of this treason against America. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say it for clickbait or trying to sell books. I'm just telling you this is the truth. Joe Biden is a traitor, and everyone around him is a traitor. If I took your audience back to January 19th, 2021, and I said, listen, I've been to the future. Let me tell you what is about to transpire under Joe Biden. And I just enumerated 5-6 things right off the top of my head. First day in office, 94 executive orders destroying every policy that Trump had in place that we gave Biden the most secure border in American history. In his first year in office, he will sign over 296 executive orders destroying everything on immigration law and policy and laying the foundation for what we're dealing with now. At the end of Joe Biden's term, which is about 6 months away, he will have arrested and released over 12 million illegal aliens into a country. He has decimated the border to where another 10 to 15 million illegal aliens have come across the border undetected and absconded. Tons and tons and tons of hard cocaine, heroin, and billions with a B, billions of pills of fentanyl have streamed across our border. This is indisputable, undeniable. 250,000 special interest aliens will be arrested and released. Those are terrorists in layman's terms. 210,000 Chinese nationals will cross, 250,000 Russians, over 1 million Venezuelans, and over a million Haitians, just to name a few. And just so your audience understands, 60 to 70% of everyone that's arrested are single adult military-age men from the nations of continent Africa and the Middle East. This does not end well. This ends in bloodshed and chaos. And it's been accelerated to a point that I honestly don't know if we can come back from this. I believe Joe Biden wins or steals the election again. I think America as we know it is gone. It's just gone. And that's not hyperbole. That's just fact. President Trump wins. We're going to see extreme violence and bloodshed on our streets because these people are from nations that are 6,000 miles away. They spent tens of thousands of dollars. Their foreign governments and militaries and terrorist organizations paid for them to come here, to be entrenched in our society and then kill us indiscriminately. They're not going. They're not going easily. It's not an episode of CSI Miami where they just give up. This is going to be a bloodbath, and it's not going to be pretty no matter what happens. But we allowed this, ma'am. We allowed this. We are our government. We sat quietly and silently because we were afraid to be called a racist or a xenophobe or whatever the left wants to call us or the rhinos want to call us. But the fact of the matter is, there are over 50 million foreign nationals in our country. Congress is now stating openly, as of yesterday, finally, they're stating the obvious. There are up to 45 million illegal aliens in our country. 1 in 7 to 1 in 8 residents in the United States of America is an illegal alien.
Yeah.
And I challenge you, ma'am, tell me one civilization, superpower, the Romans, the Greeks, the Ottomans, and I could go on and on. Tell me where that percentage of their population was not aligned with them and did not have allegiance and they survived. And the answer is none of them did. None of them.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because, and I kind of alluded to this in my email to you, but I knew, first of all, I watched the Senate hearings, when Mayorkas was nominated by Biden to be the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. And everything inside me was just screaming, no, 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 no. And I did a deep dive, especially after he got appointed, which really upset me terribly. First of all, that a Cuban is our Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. I don't care, that you've become a U.S. citizen. You are not a natural born U.S. citizen. You've come from Cuba, of all places. But when they took away the voice office, which was implemented by Tom Homan and Barbara Gonzalez and a few others at ICE during the Trump administration, and angel families could call in and follow where our illegal the illegals who committed the crime against against our loved ones, where they were in the legal system. They're in prison. They're going to be released in 10 months. Yes, ICE will be there, pick them up. We had a place to call and understand this. Mayorkas ripped that away from us and turned it into a hotline for illegals. So illegals who paid to be smuggled into our country could call this hotline and say, I'm a victim of human trafficking. And then from there, they would be transferred over to USCIS, and then USCIS would get them work permits. And I went through this whole process. It was a 2 or 3 day phone calling. And I knew some of the guys at USCIS, so I was able to get the information out of them. They were pretty reluctant to give it to me, but I knew, and I've been talking about this, JJ, I can't tell you how long, that Mayorkas and how it came up through the ranks, from in California and being in law enforcement and in, wasn't he a district attorney or something over there?
He's the United States, the U.S.
Yes.
U.S. attorney. Yep.
Right. So I followed all that and I thought, this guy knew what he was doing, man. He was planning all of this. Why do you think that Cuba and Venezuela and all these places had the temporary protected status and all of those people from those countries could come? So I thank you so much for speaking out about this publicly, because you make me feel less crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. And there are times, ma'am, when I was writing my book late at night, or when I give speeches, like I gave a speech yesterday, there are times where I'm saying things and I'm writing things that I take a mental break and I think, oh my God, no one's going to believe me, right? They're going to think I'm okay. Here I go. I'm going to say it out loud, but they're going to think I'm crazy or the conspiratorial or whatever. But it's hard fact. People just don't know. I mean, you look at Mayorkas. You can't get to the level he's at, and you cannot accomplish the level of maliciousness that he has by being a dummy. He's just not. Look, I consider him my adversary. I can't stand him. I think he's a traitor to our nation. But if I am intellectually honest, I have to tip my hat to him. And I have to say, sir, I hate you. I would love to prosecute you for treason and then give you the punishment that's due for a traitor. But you are winning. I applaud you. You have hoodwinked America. You have taken those rhinos and you have made them incompetent, even more incompetent and impotent that they are. He goes in front of Congress and he just smirks at them. He just laughs at them. And it's almost as if I can read his mind. And he's just like looking at his watch going, how much more of this theater do I have to do, guys? Because I got a lot of destruction against America that I need to continue to do. And you're right. When you say, look, he took away our hotline, our voice to know where these people are. He gave it to illegal aliens. Obama's bringing illegal aliens into the Oval Office and parading them around. I remember those days.
Yeah.
And they do everything that's against the Constitution, against law. There's no other explanation except they are actively destroying America. And then you say, why? That's crazy, JJ. Why is that crazy that I'm just regurgitating or quoting their own words? They want a replacement theory. They talk about it openly. They want to repopulate America with illegal aliens. They say it. Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Mayorkas, they all say it. Why do we not believe when they tell us that they're going to do something? That's what the shocking thing is. It's almost as if I'm standing at my front door and an invader standing on my stoop, and he's going, hey, listen, JJ, I'm going to shoot you in your head, and then I'm going to come in there, I'm going to rape and pillage everything in your house. And I sit there and go, oh, no, you won't do that. No, you're a good person, right? And bang, he shoots me and goes in my house.
Or the one word, don't.
Don't, right? Look, this is so deep. Like the corruption is so deep. Yeah. When you start doing a deep dive or even just a surface dive into the organizational chart of DHS and ICE, you're going to find, which I call lieutenants. You're going to find people that are in charge of policy, law, money, that have a direct impact on the law enforcement boots on the ground. And they're avid BLM supporters. They are avid anti-ICE, anti-deportation. The people that are in the upper echelons of DHS are against the same people that they're placed there to support. We are run by our whole leadership, our whole political spectrum is run by administrative state and the politicians that are full-on Marxists. They hate America. That's not my words. They hate America.
Right.
But you're now witnessing, they have figured out, and rightfully so, they have figured out the way to fundamentally transform America as fast as you can is through bringing in tens of millions of illegal aliens into America. And when I tell people, listen, this is a demographic shift, not based on race and ethnicity. 180 nations have been accounted for in Border Patrol arrest data out of 195 on planet Earth. So basically the whole Earth is coming to America. This is a demographic shift between citizens and non-citizens. Who is it easier to control, ma'am? Someone like me that's going to fight to the death because I know what the Bill of Rights say in the Constitution? Or is it easier to control peasants, literally peasants, millions of them, that are illiterate in their own language? They can't read or write in their own language, and they definitely cannot speak English. They have no ability to understand the Bill of Rights or Constitution and are 100% dependent on the federal government and state and local government. Who's easier to control?
Of course.
They are. Not me, not you. We're going to fight to our death. So that is what I believe in the depth of my soul is what is happening right now. And that's why I speak out. And I'm sure that's why you do, with the power of losing your son. I have a 12-year-old son. I did my research on your son. I can't even fathom the depth of pain and sadness if I lost my son.
Right.
I can't even fathom. I do know who I am and what I am. If my son ever, God, please don't let this happen, ever was killed by an illegal alien, I know that I would go on a rampage that you can't even imagine, because my son's life would be snuffed out, and the repercussions of that for forever, because our government was traitors. And that goes all the way back. That goes back to Senator Kennedy, the Simpson-Mazzoli bill. That goes back to President Reagan getting hoodwinked into amnesty. All of these clowns, all of them. And I lop President Reagan in there too. I know it's going to set the conservatives off crazy, but the number one thing that Ronald Reagan said was his biggest disappointment and his biggest failure, and the thing that he drove him crazy all the way to his death, was that he got hoodwinked into amnesty.
Right.
Think of everything that President Reagan did and accomplished, and even his failures, Iran-Contra, all that. The number one thing was I allowed those people to hoodwink me into giving amnesty to millions of people.
Yeah.
The government hates you. Mark Levin, the great constitutionalist, says it best. He wrote a book, Democrats Hate America. It's the truth.
Yes.
And when I know you have these conversations, I'm sure the same as I do. And I will go on any show. I'll talk to anyone, leftists. I love talking to them because they're so beliefs and butterflies and unicorns. And I just kill them with the facts. And ultimately, I ask them, everything that I have told you, everything that I have enumerated that has been done by Biden and Mayorkas is true. Yes, they agree. But you don't agree with my premise of they hate America, want to change America, and they're traitors. Then, if you don't believe that, then I want to know from you why this is being done. And as you, as a podcaster, know, dead air is horrible. A second sounds like a minute. A minute feels like an eternity. And I just sit there in silence. And we just stew in it because they don't have an answer. And if somebody gave you an answer to a question that you cannot answer, don't you at least intellectually would say, God, I got to look into what he believes, because at least I need to try to debunk him. But this is the world we're living in.
Yeah.
And the pain and suffering illegal aliens have caused. Listen, your son, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 2014 that he was murdered. I was telling my wife this last night. I was saying, hey, I'm going to go on this Angel Family podcast tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. And I told my wife, I said, do you know the sad thing is? I said, honey, the sad thing is I can't, and this is, I have a different job, but this is also a full-time job. I said, I can't keep track of the number of men and women that are being murdered in America by illegal aliens. I can't keep track of the number of child rapists that have been raping children. I can't keep track of it. I would need to spend 40, 50 hours a week minimum just tracking it and documenting it. That is how big this problem has gotten.
Have you ever seen the website NC for North Carolina, ncfire.info?
No, I haven't. ncfire.info?
ncfire.info. They keep track. The guy who puts it together keeps track of the rapes and sexual assaults that illegals do on children. And it's a rape epidemic in North Carolina. And I've been talking about this for years because, my biggest thing is, where are the liberals when it comes to these illegal criminals and what they're doing to our children? Where are the bleeding heart liberals when these illegal criminals come across the border and commit crimes against women? Where are the bleeding heart liberals when they're going through a subway and just knocking a woman out? Where are these people? They don't care about the people who are injured. And the other thing I want to say is why I feel like Mayorkas is such a traitorous pig is because he is the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing one thing that would make you think that he's the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security? Nothing. Everything he does is against why Department of Homeland Security was even created.
Mm-hmm. It's a sham.
Yes.
It's a sham, and the whole department's a sham. I witnessed it firsthand. I was there. I watched it. It was just a boondoggle from the beginning, and they eviscerated the power of the Border Patrol, took away our tools and reorganization, and it was terrible. But you are absolutely right when you say that Mayorkas has not done anything, and I'm telling you, as a guy that was on the inside, and I know exactly the policies and laws that they're implementing. There is not one law enforcement posture or strategy being implemented. Not one. 80% of the southern border is wide open at any given time. Border Patrol agents are processing, being detention officers, actually feeding illegal aliens, cradling babies. But 80% of the border is completely unmanned. Arizona, California, Texas, the checkpoints are closed down. They have done everything that you would strategically do to destroy the law enforcement aspect of immigration. That's indisputable. Just indisputable. And Mayorkas is a traitor. He is a like you pointed out, and people are shocked. It's shocking to me, ma'am, how ignorant America is at times, because I will go on very popular shows with people that I know have 10, 20, 30 researchers on their team. And I'll say, well, Mayorkas is a naturalized citizen from the communist Cuba. And they're like, what? I go, okay. Do you not know? Do you think people just fall out of the sky and they're just the way they are? There has to be a reason. If you looked at my life, you would see my father was a Secret Service agent. My mother was a business owner. I'm conservative. Well, how did I get to be conservative? Same thing. I'm looking at his life and I'm going, well, of course he believes this. He's a Marxist. He hates America. He's a Cuban citizen from communist Cuba. Of course he hates America.
Yeah.
Of course he does. Let's
And
connect the dots.
To put him in this high-ranking position, JJ. This is what I don't get. How did he get past the Senate hearings? How did none of these senators, and some of them were Republican who went ahead and voted for him, how in the world do they overlook something like that as important as Secretary of Department of Homeland Security?
Well, who were you banking on, right? Who were you banking on? You were hoping McConnell was going to challenge it?
Yeah.
McConnell?
I know.
I mean, okay, we can go down the line. I mean, those
they're in on it.
We live in a post-constitutional republic. We just do. We're not represented at all. Look, you just had just yesterday, the Speaker Johnson, Republican, was trying to pass a bill that gave more money to Ukraine than Israel. And in that bill, it had zero border funding. Think of what I just said. We're being invaded and we get zero money. And I always say, okay, hold on. Let's compare the United States of America with, say, Russia, China, Iran, even Mexico, or Japan. Are any of those countries allowing in Japan or China? Is China allowing 45 million Taiwanese people from India all across the globe to come in and dilute the Chinese population and destroy their culture? No. You think Russia's going to allow that to happen? Do you think India, Pakistan? Did you see what I think it was Pakistan did? They just deported. Think about this. In 60 days, they deported 2 million Afghanis. Pakistan deported 2 million Afghanis. Told them, get out. So don't tell me that we can't do this. We can, but it's going to be hard.
I got to write that down. So how are the rank and file Border Patrol agents handling this, JJ? You know, to take an oath and then to be told you're not doing anything that you took your oath to uphold. Nothing. You're going to do exactly what we tell you to do, and everything's against your, you know, what's inside of you and why you wanted to even do this job.
This is a great question. I have a good friend that runs a website or a Facebook group of retired and current Border Patrol agents, and we talk about. He was a chaplain most of his career, so we talked about this in depth. What does it look like? Well, we have a suicide epidemic in the Border Patrol. Why? Well, as you know, as your son, you put on that gun on your hip, you put the badge on, you wear your uniform, and you swore an oath. It's not like, yeah, just give me my paycheck. It's like, yes, I agree to all of that. I swear on my life that I will enforce these laws, and I will go into harm's way, and I sign up. I'm going to do it all.
It's a
Then you come
calling.
to work. It's a calling, and you feel. Look, when I would lose, we call it lose a group, or I miss something, man, it would just, especially I did in San Diego. So in San Diego, the majority of everyone crossing were criminal aliens. So I'd go home at night and let's say I lost 4 guys. They just beat me in my area. It would gnaw at me forever. I barely go to sleep. I'm like, because I know the probability that guy or those total 4 guys are criminals, and they're going to rape and pillage. And it's my fault that they're going to rape and pillage because I didn't catch them in time. I didn't notice that they crossed, and I didn't track them out fast enough. The Border Patrol agents feel utterly demoralized. They go to work every day instead of doing their job. Think of this. This is what they tell me. I have friends and sources all across the border, northern border, southern border. They tell me I have become the final leg of the smuggling operation. I am no better than a human smuggler because I am setting up their transportation. There are times where I'm driving them into America and releasing them. Just so your audience understands, next month the Border Patrol is going to have their 100-year anniversary. For 40 months out of 100 years, we never did this. For 97 years, we never did anything that we did in these 40 months. Never. There isn't one thing that's transpiring today that we were allowed. Let me give you an example. Okay? Special interest aliens, SIAs we call them. Special interest aliens are terrorists. Okay, let's just say it what it is. They are low-level terrorists or high-level ISIS recruiters, everywhere in between. This is just what we know. Okay. In my career in 24 years as a grunt on the line to a supervisor to a high-level manager, I would guess I had 10, 15, 20,000 arrests, like directly and indirectly. And overseeing. 24 years, I had less than 5 special interest aliens ever.
Wow.
5 special interest aliens. If I would have released, this is how it goes down. JTTF comes in. This is a Joint Terrorism Task Force by the FBI. Comes in. They interview them. If he's a terrorist, they whisk him away like Men in Black, and I don't know where he goes, but he ain't released. If they decide that Mohammed from Yemen is not the Mohammed on the watch list, but he's connected somehow, JJ, he's back to you to report him. 10-4, I go through everything. I make sure my report's tight because everyone's going to look at it. I give him to ICE. ICE signs off, and ICE flies him back to Yemen and drops him off. If I would have released that person from Yemen, that day they would have come and taken my gun and my badge, and they would put me on suspension. And then they would investigate me thoroughly to see how corrupt I was.
Right.
Fast forward to today. By the end of Joe Biden's term in 6, 7 months, 8 months, he will have arrested and released 250,000 plus special interest aliens. Let me make sure your audience understands what I'm saying. 250,000 special interest aliens. These are just what's arrested and give up. I'm not talking about the abscond. So the real number is probably well over 1 million. Yeah. Special interest aliens, 250,000, have been arrested and released into the United States of America. Do you see the Hamas and Palestine protests all over the nation? Chants death to America?
Yeah.
Those are illegal aliens that we allowed in here. They're legal, they're quasi-legal Biden, Obama aliens in America. We are being played. We're on a team. Let's say our side, the the Republicans, which I don't believe they're our side, but they're our side. they're trying to find checker pieces to play checkers. And Mayorkas and them are master chess players, and they're playing chess. And we're falling around in the dark trying to find checkers. That's how bad it is. Or if you want to take it better, Mayorkas and them are the Kansas City Chiefs that just won the Super Bowl, and they're playing against the high school JV team, ninth graders.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. And let me give you an example of how they are the pros, and we are just insignificant, little, tiny, zit-faced freshmen in high school. 45 million illegal aliens. Let's look at just the total of Biden, 12 million. USCIS has now deemed everybody that has come in on asylum and parole, which is everybody, temporary protective status individuals, deferred enforced departure, called DEDs, and DACA. They've now labeled them all legal residents, ma'am. And why is that important? Because legal residents can sponsor for their family members to come in. So what they've done is they've taken illegal aliens in America that now can sponsor their family members. So you take 12 million and you times it times 5 or 10. You're looking at 50, 60, 100 million more people. You don't think this is going to happen? You're a fool. Because again, they're playing chess. And let me explain. If I'm a U.S. citizen, we've heard these stories before. I'm a naturalized citizen or a U.S. citizen, and I struggle and I work 2-3 jobs so I can sponsor my brother or my family member to come from India, okay? Because I have to sign a form, a government form, the I-134, Declaration of Financial Support. I have to go get a mortgage. I have to prove to the government I could sustain this individual. He is totally under my control financially. If he gets into any financial issues, they come to me. I'm the co-signer. What the government has now said is you don't have to have the I-134 because now the NGOs become your financial backstop. So we give Catholic Charities $7 billion in the last 20 years. They use our money to now be the financial loan secure, the asset to secure this individual to bring in and how many people they want. It's ingenious. Again,
Yeah.
I have to applaud them. Ma'am, you have
Washing
to.
the federal government's hands of the dirty work, pawning it all off on the NGOs, right?
NGOs are the most, they're the hitman, the version of the hitman of the mafia. The guy that goes, cleans everything up, takes care of everything, does all the dirty work. The government has the plausible deniability because they say, well, that's the NGOs. The NGOs are smuggling children across state lines and turning them over to people they don't know. Look, I know a lot of audiences don't want to talk about this, and I really don't care, to be honest with you, because I have to talk about this because I feel an obligation. I feel almost a moral obligation to talk about this. The United States of America has become the world's largest modern-day child sex trafficking organization.
Mm-hmm.
There's no disputing it. Over 500,000, we call them UACs, unaccompanied alien children from ages of infancy to 17 years old have been arrested and released to people we have no idea who they are. The Director of Health and Human Services and it's okay. And the Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement, they are the people responsible for caring for these children. They've already gone in front of Congress multiple times under testimony, sworn testimony, and said, basically, we have no idea where they are. There's no follow-up. If you're in foster care in America and you get placed in a foster care or adoptive family, I adopted my son. I know the process. It's rigorous, and it should be, right? Because there's so many animals in the world, and there's home visits, and I had to change my house that I had in Carlsbad that none of these illegal aliens could ever afford to live in or live like that. And I had to change things to my house per the home visit. Fine, I'll do it. I want to be a parent. And then they're going to come and they're going to do follow-up visits. And they're going to interview my son to see if he's being cared for. Do you know how many times that they follow up with children? Zero. Zero. Now, you connect and you look at the highest level of our society. There is a major pedophile ring running through it. It's indisputable throughout the world. So think about the United States of America, number one consumer of child pornography in the world. United States of America, the number one consumer of child pornography. And then you're telling me that there's no connection between 500,000 plus children that we have no idea? We're finding these children working in meatpacking plants at 2 o'clock in the morning, working for Kellogg's, working in ditches at 14 years old. They're supposed to be in school.
Yeah.
This is, look, why did they attack the movie Freedom? They could have just ignored it. They attacked the movie Freedom because it's the truth and it exposes all the rampant pedophilia in America. We are such a decadent nation because of what we've allowed to have happen in our nation. My son's 12 years old. There's no way in hell I'm letting him work at meatpacking plant at 2 o'clock in the morning. If my son should not work in a meatpacking plant, then Juan from Guatemala at 12 years old should not be working in a meatpacking plant. And
Right.
why this is such a big industry is because you got to understand it from a cartel's perspective, a criminal perspective. They don't care. They have a moral track. It just isn't our moral track. Their moral track is power, violence, abuse, and money. So if I'm a cartel guy and I'm selling heroin, when I sell that clip of heroin and you're going to shoot in your arm, whatever, how are you going to take that heroin? It's gone. I can't do anything. I can't resell it. But little Juan, that's 5 years old, or Maria from Ecuador, that's 12. I can sell those children 5 to 10 times a day.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And America does nothing. We do nothing to stop this.
It's disgusting. And, I just read this morning where the Guatemalan president is actually working with Texas because they're saying so many of their unaccompanied children are disappearing into the United States. And again, this is the thing that irritates me the most about the Democrats and a lot of the Republicans who don't understand the depth of this evil is, why are the children never talked about, JJ? Why are the 800,000, and I know it's 800,000 or more.
Yes, it is.
These unaccompanied minor children. They talk 63,000. No, it's 800,000 or more of these unaccompanied children who are missing. Why aren't we talking about them? They are the future of our world, and
that's an easy question to answer. They're not talking about it because they are using those children as sex and labor. That's it. I know it's hard. You and I are going to want more moral depth and more moral understanding. But when you're looking at this from the perspective of morality and God and right and wrong, I love America. Americans would never do that. It's hard to comprehend what's happening in America. However, and I tell people this, stop for a second, take off those glasses that America first, patriot, America was founded on greatness. Take them off and put on, I hate America. America founding fathers were racist slaveholders. Everything America has is ill-gotten gains. I can do anything I want. There is no God. I am God. When you look through those lenses, it all makes sense. It's very rational, but you cannot look from it from our perspective. You and I, you're a parent, I'm a parent. We would never allow this to happen to our family. We would go to the ends of the earth looking for my son. The ends of the earth. I'd sell everything. And I would just be I would never even sleep. I'd just go nonstop.
Yeah.
But these people don't, because they're using these children. And you're right. The number is probably closer to 1 million. And when I use numbers and data, I just use DHS because their numbers are so grotesque. I don't need to use my real numbers. Sometimes I'll tell you my real numbers. My real numbers, when Joe Biden finishes, they will say that he has arrested 12 million and they've had about 3 million abscond. 15 million. I'm telling you that number's double. I'm telling you it's anywhere from 25 to 30 million, and I'm being conservative.
Yep.
Children, 500,000. I know that number to be closer to 1 million, but I'm going to use DHS data because I get challenged a lot and say, no, okay, you don't want to believe me? It's at cbp.gov. Just go look at it. I'm not making this up. Why don't you do some research? And then I tell people, okay, let's say that I'm off. Let's say JJ is insane. I'm crazy. This year, 2024, there's going to be 100,000 special interest aliens cross the border and released. And you question me and say, I don't believe that. I don't believe that number. And I say, okay, let's say that I'm 99% wrong. 99%. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'll go with that. Okay. That means there's 1,000 terrorists across our border. Are you okay with 1,000 terrorists?
Right.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
The depth of your stupidity and ignorance and lack of critical thinking is astounding. Because even if I strip away what I'm saying to be false at a 99% rate, everything that I'm telling you is still so beyond comprehension because of the level of deceit, the level of treason, and the level that they're trying to change America. This is a math problem.
And the crime statistics and the statistics of Americans killed, back in 2012, I think it was, Representative Steve King from Iowa used some sheriff statistics that it was 12 Americans or 25 Americans a day are killed by illegals. And so when I was at the White House one time, because I had been walking DC and I saw the Vietnam War memorial and how many men were killed over in Vietnam.
Yep.
And so I took the figure of 25 and I cut it in half. So I said more than half. I said 12 a day. And I told President Trump at a roundtable with some politicians and with Tom Homan and with some sanctuary city officials. We were talking about getting rid of sanctuary policies. But I said, more Americans have been killed on our home soil since 9/11 than those that were killed in Vietnam. More Americans have been killed by illegals right here in America. And nobody even stops to think that we have a war raging against Americans here. And Trump looked over at me and he's like, I've never heard those figures before. Well, of course, I was attacked relentlessly in the news the next day because I'm an idiot because of you're taking sheriffs. Well, sheriff statistics are more true than law enforcement because you've got city council and mayors who refuse to allow them to properly show you the statistics of the crimes. That you can see an illegal from Africa, clearly a black man from Africa, and when you look at it, it says he's white. That's his race on his booking. And so they're purposely skewing the crime statistics, or for the last 2 years, they haven't even been reporting them. So of course, crime has gone down in the United States. When you're not keeping track of it, then Joe Biden's able to tell his lies.
And this is a great point because there is no true hard data on the number of illegal aliens committing crimes, and that's done purposely. I did a whole chapter in my book about a standing army of criminals in America, and I watered it down. I watered all of my numbers down. I mean, brought it down to nothing. I took a 2.5% of a total 100%, and I still come up with over 2 million criminal aliens living in America. And I know that's so grotesquely. I just brought it down to the base and said, this is the best case scenario, people. The real number is 10, 15, 20 million illegal alien criminals. Look, guys used to stand in front of me as I arrested them and as I'm processing, and I get their rap sheet back. It's 50 pages long from the FBI. And I see U.S. citizen. I'm like, you're from Guatemala. Yeah, I'm born in Guatemala. Of course you are. You don't even speak English. But the FBI says you're USC. They skew the numbers on purpose because they don't want you to know. Right. They have no idea how many people. And you're right. There is an epidemic in the last, this has been going on forever, but it's exponentially worse. Everyone's labeled white. The guy he's from Nigeria. I'm looking at him. His skin pigment is dark as night. And you're saying he's white? He's not white. It's like me going in front of him and saying, yeah, you know what? I'm Hispanic. What? Yeah, no, I'm Latin America. No, you're not. You're a white dude.
Well, and
But we have
this allows the Cato Institute and all those organizations that put out Americans commit more crimes than illegals.
I
Well,
love
first
that.
of all, you don't take the whole population of the United States when you're figuring out illegal crime. You take the illegal population and the amount of criminals within the illegal population to come up with the percentage of how many illegals commit crimes in the United States.
Well, you
And
know what, ma'am? I always say back to that whenever Cato and them say, I say, number one, I dispute everything you're saying. And number two, are you telling me that one murder is okay? Is that what you're
right,
telling me? And I always reference families like yours, Lake and Riley. And I say, hold on a second. You're okay with one? And I just wait for him. And then I won't even let him answer. I say, then why don't we allow that one to be your wife? I'm going to allocate that one murder that you okayed it. We're going to do your wife. We're going to murder your wife. Are you okay with that? Of course they're not.
no,
So my ultimate argument is, look, I know you're lying about the numbers. Illegal aliens commit way more crimes on average than Americans, way more. It's already, it's nonsensical. But ultimately, every murder, every rape, every crime, every drug deal, everything that happens in America, your son dying should have never happened.
right,
Never happened. And listen, it's not just the death of, say, your son or Lake and Riley. Stop for a second and think beyond the present. Look at what was destroyed. Let's take Lake and Riley so it's not as personal with your son. Let's take Lake and Riley, 22 years old nursing student. Her parents look like they're middle class, normal Americans family. Now let's look at what's happened. That illegal alien from Venezuela snuffed out this lady's life. She would have gotten married and had children. Those children would have gotten married and had children. We're looking at generational murder. Generational murder. Gone. What could have Lake and Riley's children done or their grandchildren? What could they have accomplished in life that maybe changed the world? You don't know. Maybe they cure cancer. Maybe they become one of the greatest musicians to ever known, and we live and we enjoy their music. Maybe the individual is going to continue on to be a great law enforcement officer and save countless lives. They're gone.
yeah,
Because we allow savages, and I don't care what you think of my verbiage. We allow savages to stay in our country. And you say, well, let me just get, I could go on, you and I could go on a telethon for days talking about this. I'm just going to give you one example. Okay. Sanctuary City, Boston. 4 days ago, I think a guy's from Honduras, illegal alien from Honduras, gets arrested for raping 7 to 8 children, like babies, like 5, 6, 7 years, 7 of them. They released them onto the street.
It's disgusting.
But it's happening every day, and you know this because of your research. This is not anomalies. These are not one-offs. I'm telling you, this is happening multiple times a day, all year long.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, what's going to happen, I truly believe this summer, JJ, is it's going to be worse than the BLM riots, because these illegals come here feeling so entitled to begin with, and they're going to be demanding more and more. It's going to be hot. It's going to be sweltering in these big cities. They're not going to have any place to go. The citizens are getting fed up with them. I think there's going to be just complete disdain towards these illegals in these big cities like New York and Boston and Chicago. And it's going to become very riotous this summer. And I think there's going to be a lot of bloodshed this summer. And like you said a little earlier, I think it's all done by design, because what better time in an election year to have this type of unrest and ugliness. But I would hope that it would bring them back to their senses of, this is what the current government has facilitated for you. This is what they have more planned for you in the future. More of this is coming. I was just looking into Catholic Charities because of the Welcome Corps. Have you seen that?
Yes, we're in phase 2 now of that
Yes.
engagement.
Okay. So I really did a deep dive into all of that because of your podcast with Redacted News. And I am sickened how deeply involved they are. But what I want the viewers to understand is, because you hear a lot about Catholic Charities, but in your estimation, JJ, how many NGOs that big are out there right now?
Okay, and I wrote about this in my book, and investigative journalist Michelle Malkin, incredible writer, she wrote a whole chapter on NGOs, and I took from her book. I cited her because it's so incredible.
I love her.
NGOs, the big ones: United Way, Lutheran Family Services, Catholic Charities, Jewish Family Services, HIAS. Those are the big ones, and then this is not exaggeration, hundreds of smaller ones. Hundreds. There's no vetting. When I joined the Border Patrol, you're going to join HHS or ORR or whatever. You're going to go through anywhere from 6 months to about a year and a half background check. They're going to go through everything. No one's background checking any of these NGOs.
No.
They're hiring and firing and letting people go. They have criminals working in the organization. After this is done, historians are going to come back, or investigative journalists are going to come back, and they're going to write volumes of the abuses by the NGOs. The NGOs are the greatest fraud, but Catholic Charities ranks up there number one. I'm Catholic. The Catholic Church tries to distance themselves from Catholic Charities because they know the fallback, but they're intertwined, absolutely intertwined, because they solicit donations on Sunday for Catholic Charities. I'm a religious, go to church every Sunday, and I hear it. I look at my wife and I go, no tithe into that, sweetheart.
Yeah.
They are tied, and you got to understand. I know we're coming up on a hard break, but I want your audience to understand. We're not talking about nickels. We're not talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about billions with a B. From 2005-ish to about 2020, 2022, Catholic Charities received $3.5 billion for refugee. $3.5 billion. It's estimated that they're at $3 billion since Joe Biden's taken office in 3 years. They're upwards of $7 billion. That's one. We're not talking about the hundreds. I have someone that I know that's inside cutting the checks. He goes, JJ, I'm cutting checks for $600 million for 2 or 3 months of work, and no one's saying a damn thing. They're like, just cut it and send it. Oh my God. Can you imagine the fraud that's going on? No one cares.
And all these illegals who are going to come and get these work permits, because now that they're legal residents, they can go ahead and work anywhere and everywhere, right? And a lot of them are still going to be working getting paid under the table. So they aren't going to be paying taxes in. And so I think honestly, the whole big goal, and of course this one world order, they were thrown off by 4 years by Trump, but the goal is to bankrupt the United States, because $774 billion, JJ, is estimated to go out of this country in 2024 in remittances. $774 billion, which is money illegals sent home to their families in their home countries. And a lot of those are wages that they're working for that are not being taxed to begin with, but it will never stoke the American economy. It's going to stoke the countries where they've come from and to build their lives up there, because once they've accomplished what they want and have what they want in their home country, it's going to be adios, US. Thanks for the ride. It was great. And a lot of them are going to go home.
Yep, I agree. And let me finish with this. I absolutely believe that this is the global reset. There's no way around it, because it's already transpired in Western Europe. Okay, we're about 2 to 3 years behind Europe in the way that we're doing in immigration. Ours is exponentially bigger because we're an exponentially bigger nation. But this is the global reset. They are moving all of the third world country into the first world and devastating it. To understand what's going to happen to America, I don't have to give you theoreticals. I can just tell you what's happening in Europe. France over the summer was on fire No one wanted to talk about it. Illegal aliens burnt our version of Library of Congress. Could you imagine our Library of Congress being burnt to the ground? 250 years of documents. Well, France's Library of Congress was over 1,100 years old. They burnt it to the ground. So I don't have, look, just yesterday, you had hundreds, if not thousands, of illegal aliens swarm New York City Hall, demanding, what were they demanding? We're not staying in shelters anymore. You're putting us back in those nice 3- and 4-star hotels.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right. We are going to see a summer of violence, and you will see it carry over to about October, and then you will see martial law, and we can't vote. It's too dangerous to vote. Everyone's going to mail in vote. You can do it on your computer, whatever, because our old demented jackass, Biden, is going to stay in. And you stupid Americans, you rubes, are just going to play along in this play. You are going to continue to acknowledge him as your president. We are at a precipice in American history. I don't know which way it's going to go. I don't. I'll be honest. But I do know this. 50 to 100 years from now, historians are going to write volumes and volumes and volumes how Americans stood by and allowed their elections to be hijacked, to lie right to their face. Everyone agrees to it. We're going to throw COVID. We're going to lock you down. And then we're going to bring in millions and millions and millions of people to replace you. And you lazy, fat Americans and uneducated Americans, uninformed Americans did nothing. And you sat there. When my ultimate goal, I'll leave you with this, ma'am. My ultimate goal in my life is when I'm 80 years old and my son is visiting me as an adult, and he and I are having a conversation, not as a father and son so much as friends, because that's what I'll always be his dad, but I want our relationship to evolve like my father and I had. And I want to have that conversation where he looks at me as a man and as a father and says, Dad, everything went to hell, but you had the courage to at least speak. You wrote a book. You took the time to do that. You did speeches. You talked to everyone you could. Thank you. Thank you for being a patriot and not a coward.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I'm going to get it because I'm not going to remain silent. I lived it. I'm not a talking head, ma'am. I'm not someone that goes on and says, hey, I went down the border, took some videos. I lived that life for 24 years, and I was damn good at what I did. I know. I'm not just some guy that's going to go make arrests. I was the guy that knew policy inside and out. I know the law inside and out. I understand why things are done and how they're done and who is doing them and why they're doing them. I am telling you from a guy that's been inside, down in the trenches and up into senior leadership, I'm telling you today that Joe Biden and his cabinet, which includes Mayorkas, are traitors, and they are trying and they are winning and succeeding at fundamentally transforming America into a third world hellhole. And that's how they're going to change America and rule her. And you and I are going to be forced to shut up and take it. Right. That's it.
And January 6th was a clear indication and a warning. Don't you dare stand up and say anything, because you will be arrested and you will be falsely charged with things. But I want to say, first of all, thank you for your service, JJ. And thank you for speaking out, and thank you for stepping up and speaking out and giving us the information and the tools in such a understanding way. It's not hard to understand what you're saying. And everybody, he has written a book called Invaded. I highly recommend that you get it, that you read it. And you have a documentary coming up in October, is it?
Yes, ma'am. I start filming in 2 weeks in San Diego. I have a Give, Send, Go / Saving America. I'm getting a lot of donations because we're just doing it. I don't want to partner. I have a very good production company, but it's small. And I've been approached by multiple production companies, but I will not put out something that's soft. Compromised. I'm going to put out something that's really good, and it tells the truth. And I'm excited about it. I'll have my first trailer within a week. And I would love to come back on your show and show the trailer and discuss what I'm doing. And I appreciate the time you've given me. I think podcast is the greatest forum for information because it's long form. I go on national TV like I did last night, and today I'll go back on, but it's sound bites. Yeah. And you cannot You can't have a conversation in sound bites and discussion of the depth.
And the host has a narrative of what they want to say and ask and take most of
Absolutely.
your talking time anyway. That's why I quit doing the Fox News interviews, because it's like it's 3 minutes of my life that I'll never get back, but I never even got the message out that I wanted to say. And
Absolutely.
so I will definitely have you back on. You reach out to me, JJ, when you have the trailer ready, and I will definitely set up a day, an hour, because I think you and I could talk for hours on end.
And I think we will in the future. We'll talk for hours, and I will share everything I have with you. And because I think the greatest call of action is to become an expert in a field, be it education, fatherlessness, whatever, immigration, and then share it with people and don't hold that information. You brought up some things like NC Fire, didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
So, and I hope that I have been able to give you something that you're like, wait, I didn't even know that. And I'll write that down. So
why do you think I reached out to you? Because your interview on Redacted News just like blew me away. I mean, I'm not kidding. I sat on my bed that night and I stopped and played and wrote down probably every word you said. And I did a podcast the next day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this guy who I saw last night, and probably did verbatim. And I gave you credit at the end of my podcast. I said, this is not my information, and just on a whim, I emailed you, and I was like so incredibly thankful that you responded. And I think this will be a long friendship, JJ, and God bless you, and thank you. And definitely get back in touch with me when your trailer's ready. I want to have you back on.
I will, ma'am. Thank you for having me on. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
That'll be the end of our show. We ran a little bit over today, but heck, this was a great show. I love JJ. I love the information he brings us. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day.